You almost don't ask for her number. She's sitting at the corner table, third time this week, ordering the same thing every time. Black coffee, no sugar, window seat. You've noticed. Of course you've noticed. You notice everything when you own a place this small. 8 tables, a chalkboard menu, and the kind of quiet that only exists before 8 a.m. She tips well. She doesn't linger. She reads a physical newspaper, which feels like a detail from a different era, and she never once looks at her phone. On the fourth morning, you bring her the coffee before she orders it. She looks up, and something in her expression shifts, just barely, just for a second, like a door opening a crack. She says, "Thank you." You say it's nothing. You walk back behind the counter and you tell yourself that's the end of it. It isn't the end of it. Her name is Ilara. You learn this 2 weeks later when she leaves her credit card behind and you have to chase her down the street in the rain, receipt folder in one hand, umbrella in the other. Completely undignified, she takes the card. She looks at you, really looks at you, and she laughs. It's a real laugh, short and surprised, like she wasn't expecting it, like she doesn't do it often. You go on a date that Saturday, then another, then a third. She is the most composed person you have ever met in your life. She speaks slowly. She never fidgets. She listens to you the way most people don't listen to anyone. Like she's memorizing everything, cataloging it, filing it somewhere safe. It should feel strange. Instead, it feels like the most seen you've ever been. You don't ask what she does for work. She says she manages assets. You imagine spreadsheets. You imagine board meetings. You don't imagine anything close to the truth. 6 months in, you meet her people, not friends. You'll understand that distinction later, but that's what you call them at the time, because that's what they seem like. A dinner party at her penthouse, 12. People in a room with a view of the whole city, and every single one of them stands up when she walks in. You file it away as a personality thing. Some people just command rooms. Ilara commands rooms. The man across from you at dinner has a scar that runs from his jaw to his collarbone. He catches you looking and smiles. He has very nice teeth and very flat eyes. You look back down at your plate. After dinner, she takes you to the balcony. The city spreads out below you, glittering and vast. She says, "I want you to know who I am before this goes any further." You say, "I feel like I know you pretty well." She says, "You don't." And then she tells you. She doesn't sugarcoat it. She doesn't use euphemisms or corporate language or vague references to import and export. She tells you plainly, clearly, in the same quiet voice she uses to order black coffee, exactly what she runs and how long she's been running it and what it means. You grip the railing. The city looks different now. Same lights, same streets, different city. She says she understands if you need to leave. She'll have someone drive you home. She won't hold it against you. She won't bother you again. You stand there for a long time. The thing is, you've been watching this woman for 6 months. You've had breakfast with her. You've watched her help a stranger's kid tie their shoe outside a pharmacy. You've seen her fire an employee with such fairness and such grace that the employee thanked her on the way out. You've seen her cry exactly once, quietly, at a documentary about elephants. You don't leave. That's the first mistake. You just don't know it yet. The proposal happens on an ordinary Tuesday. No restaurant, no ring box pulled from a jacket pocket. You're in her kitchen, she's making eggs, and she says it like she's asking you to pass the salt. "Marry me." You say yes before you fully process the question. She slides the eggs onto a plate, sets it in front of you. And that's that. The ring arrives 3 days later in a small velvet box on your kitchen counter. No note. It fits perfectly. You never told her your size. You don't ask how she knew. The wedding is not small. You'd suggested small. She nodded thoughtfully. The way she nods at ideas she has no intention of following. There are 240 guests in a venue that used to be a cathedral, and you know, maybe 11 of them. The food is extraordinary. The flowers cost more than your car. At one point, a man who you are fairly certain you've seen on the news shakes your hand and tells you you're a lucky person. You smile and say you know, and you do know. You genuinely do. Ilara looks at you across the room and something warm moves through your chest, something uncomplicated and true. Love is a strange thing. It doesn't wait for your life to make sense before it shows up. You learn the rules slowly. You don't ask where she goes when she leaves at 2 a.m. You don't ask why certain calls make her leave the room. You don't ask about the men who sometimes sit in a car outside your building for hours and then simply drive away. You cook dinner, you run the cafe, you live something that looks, from the outside, like a very nice life. 2 months in, she comes home with blood on her sleeve. Not a lot. A thin smear, already dried. She doesn't explain it. She goes straight to the shower. You pour her a glass of water. You leave it on the bathroom counter. You go back to the kitchen. You don't ask. That's when you realize you've already chosen. Not at the cathedral, not even on the balcony. Right here, in this kitchen, not asking. The thing about Ilara is she doesn't pull you in the way you'd expect. There's no moment where she sits you down and tells you it's time to get your hands dirty. No ultimatum, no recruitment speech. It's more gradual than that. First, you just drive her somewhere because her usual driver is unavailable. Easy enough. Then you sit in on a meeting because her second in command is sick and she needs someone she trusts at the table. You don't say anything, you just observe. Then you start helping her think through problems, the way you used to think through the coffee shop budget or a tricky staffing issue. Logistics is logistics. People are people. You're surprisingly good at seeing angles she hasn't considered. She never pushes, she just creates openings. And you keep walking through them. By the end of the first year, you have a role. Nobody gave it a title, but you have it. You tell yourself what you need to tell yourself. You tell yourself you haven't hurt anyone, that you're the voice in the room that argues for restraint, for patience, for solutions that don't leave a body somewhere. And that's true. That's actually true. Ilara listens to you in ways she doesn't seem to listen to anyone else. You've talked her back from the edge more than once. You've made things less bad. You tell yourself you're a moderating force, that the machine would run darker without you. Inside it. Maybe that's true too. Or maybe it's just a story that gets you to sleep. There's a night 8 months into the marriage when you understand what you've really signed up for. Ilara's been gone for 3 days. No real explanation. She does this sometimes. You've learned to hold the anxiety loosely, like something that belongs to you but doesn't have to run you. She comes back on a Wednesday at 4 a.m. You hear the door and you meet her in the hallway. She looks tired in a way you've never seen before. Not just sleep tired, tired somewhere deeper. She sits on the kitchen floor, just slides down the cabinet and sits there, still in her coat. You sit next to her. You don't say anything. After a while, she says, "I did something necessary tonight." You say you understand. She says, "I don't think I want to talk about it." You say, "You don't have to." And you sit there together on the kitchen floor until the sky starts to get light. She falls asleep with her head on your shoulder. You don't move. Your arm goes numb somewhere around 6 a.m. and you don't move anyway. Necessary. That's the word that stays with you. Not good. Not right. Necessary. You've started thinking that way too. You haven't noticed until now. The moment everything changes is so ordinary, you almost miss it. You're at a meeting. A conversation about territory, about someone who's been encroaching, testing limits. Around the table are 7 people who would do absolutely anything. Ilara asked without a second thought. You're the only one who pauses. You lay out an alternative, a negotiation, a warning, something with more steps but fewer consequences. You walk them through it. You're calm. You're clear. You're good at this now. Ilara looks at you from across the table and there's something in her face that isn't quite pride but lives in the same neighborhood. She says, "Do it his way." And nobody argues. You drive home thinking, I just made a decision that will affect people I'll never meet. And then you think, I'll probably do it again. The night her lieutenant drops a folder on your desk and says, "She said you'd handle this." You don't ask what it is before you open it. That's how far you've come from the man standing in the rain with a credit card receipt. Here's what nobody tells you about this life. It's not the danger that changes you, it's the normalcy. The way Tuesday still feels like Tuesday, the way you still have a favorite coffee mug and a playlist for doing dishes and opinions about the best route across the city in traffic. You still call your mother on Sundays. You still feed the neighbor's cat when she travels. The darkness doesn't replace your ordinary life. It just layers underneath it. And eventually you stop being able to see where one ends and the other begins. One afternoon, Ilara asks you what you'd do if you could do anything else. The question catches you off guard. You've been shredding documents, which has also become a normal Tuesday activity. You think about it. You actually think about it. You say, I'd probably still run a cafe somewhere. Small place, 8 tables. She's quiet for a moment. She's looking at you the way she looked at you that first day you brought her coffee, like a door opening a crack. She says, "I'm sorry." You say, "For what?" She doesn't answer right away. She goes back to what she was doing. Later, you think about it. You think about what she might have meant. Sorry for what I am. Sorry for what you've become. Sorry for building a life with you inside something you can't leave. You think she meant all of it. And here's the thing that sits in your chest quiet and heavy in the early mornings when you wake up before her and watch the light come through the curtains and listen to the city. You wouldn't leave. That's the part that scares you. Not the danger, not the secrets, not the things you've done that you can't exactly name out loud. The part that scares you is that somewhere between the rainy morning and the kitchen floor at 4 a.m., you stopped wanting an exit. You love her. Completely, specifically, inconveniently. And you are in so far that love and entrapment look exactly the same from where you're standing. You get up, you make coffee, you put her cup on the counter before she wakes up. The way she likes it. Black. No sugar. She comes in and sees it, and for just a second, barely a second, she smiles. You used to think you were making choices. You know better now, but you pick up the cup and you hand it to her anyway.